John Wick 3 Parabellum may be the greatest action film ever made. I think that's a very bold statement. I don't think it's a fair statement to say until you've seen a film multiple times and some time has actually passed. But while I was sitting down watching John Wick 3, that's precisely what I thought. This is the greatest action film I have ever seen. So upon a second viewing, or perhaps after a year has gone by, perhaps my mind will change on it. But right now, first impressions, this is the best action film ever made. Not the best film ever made, the best action film ever made. You don't have to have seen John Wick number 1 or John Wick number 2 to go into this film. It does explain a little bit at the start of the film as to what happened in John Wick 2, but you don't even need to know that, okay? It's a John Wick film. If you've seen John Wick 1 and 2, this is the same but better. So this is the same as the other John Wick films, but better. If you haven't seen the John Wick films and you like action films, you'll love this. If you don't like the John Wick films, there's nothing new here for you to like. So you will hate this film if you don't like John Wick 1 or 2. This hasn't got anything new to bring to the table. This is more of the same, but they've dialed it up to 11. So it's even more John Wick than you get in John Wick 1 and 2. As far as any actual criticism goes, other than all of the normal criticism you could level at an action film, I think the only thing they really got wrong was the casting of one of the characters called the Adjudicator. They've actually cast the person that plays Tyler Mason from the TV series Billions, and they essentially played the exact same character, this sort of automaton, autistic person that has no personality. So that stuck out just a little bit for not being excellent, but the rest of the film, very good. Again, you can criticize a lot here because it is an action film. It has all the criticisms you can level at any action film, but as an action film, it's fantastic. It's a really good film. Again, as I said at the start, is it the best film ever? Right now, I think it is, but you have to look at it again to really say, is it really the best? But it's really good. So nonetheless, whether it's the best action film ever made or not, it's an exceptionally good action movie. As far as any sort of politics in the film goes, it's really got nothing like that at all, which is always good to see in entertainment, especially nowadays. But they do have Halle Berry playing a bit of a sidekick role to him for a portion of the film. So I suppose if you really want to look at it through that lens, you could say he's now got a black female sidekick for a part of the film. And so the SJWs have got a win for the intersectionals. They've got a black female playing a prominent role in the John Wick film. But I didn't really take it like that at all. But if that's how you want to look at things, sure, you could say that they've stooped down to sort of appease the people that weren't going to watch this film anyway. The subtitle of the film, Parabellum, that is said in the film, it is Latin for prepare for war, but I did have a little look online to look it up just now just to see what it said. One of the first articles you get is this one here from Wikipedia. The 9x19mm Parabellum is a firearms cartridge that was designed by George Luger and introduced in 1902 by the German weapons manufacturer Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionsfabrikant DWM, German Weapons and Munitions Factory, for their Luger semi-automatic pistol. So the subtitle Parabellum has a bit of a double entendre meaning, not just the literal definition, but also it's a type of ammunition which I'm sure he is using thoroughly throughout this episode. As far as the actual action itself goes, there's a large amount of variety, which is what I think brings the film to being one of, if not the best, action film ever. He's got a horse involved at one point in time. There's a lot of knife throwing going on. There's a lot of knives, a lot of stabbing. Obviously, a lot of shooting, a lot of headshots as per normal for John Wick. A lot of martial arts as usual. So same as what you get, but just a lot more variety. Or at least it seems like there's a lot more variety in the actual action. I hadn't seen any trailers for John Wick 3 beforehand. I hadn't read anything about it. I didn't think you needed to. If you like John Wick 1 or 2, I assumed you would like this. And so when I saw Halle Berry in the film, I didn't know she would be in it. And I actually thought, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. Absolute opposite. Halle Berry is fantastic in the film. She does a lot of action. They dedicate a fair sort of portion of it to showing her beating up a lot of people and shooting it. Seemed very authentic to me, even though it's Halle Berry, and realistically she probably couldn't beat anyone up. I thought it was really well done. She's also got a couple of attack dogs with her, and I don't know if I've ever really seen attack dogs in a film to this sort of prominence. She's got them grabbing people while she's shooting them. It's really good. I don't really want to spoil too much of the action, but she's got these dogs, and I just don't remember ever seeing dogs or animals involved in an action film the way that these are actually involved. As far as the story goes, I don't think you can actually spoil anything in a John Wick film. He's going to kill a lot of people and he's going to try not to get killed. That's what you've got here. So there's not really any spoilers I think you could really get into. But the general gist of it is it takes up probably about half an hour or maybe even just 10 minutes after the actual end of number 2. But I believe number 2 ended when it was still daylight. I might have to check up on that. And this starts when it's nighttime. And it doesn't just look like dusk. It looks like a fair bit of nighttime. But at the end of number 2, Winston, the guy that is the manager of the Continental Hotel in New York, he gives him 1 hour before all of the assassins are going to actually attack him because he broke the rules in the Continental and killed one of the fellow people in the underground. And so he gets an hour, basically, reprieve until everyone on the planet's going to start to kill John Wick. So that's how the number 2 actual film ends. This one starts basically right at that point in time, except it's now nighttime. So I don't know how that works out, but it does keep announcing that, we've got half an hour left until the embargo's off. We've got 10 minutes left, and then obviously when it gets to 0 time left, all the assassins come out of the woodwork and try to actually kill him. So it is right after episode 2, but again, it might be a bit of a time jump, even though there is no time jump, because it's now nighttime, and I believe it was daytime, and it's also raining, and I really can't remember what the sky looked like at the end of number 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was blue sky and didn't look like any rain. But a minor thing, but that's kind of where the film starts off. The only other information that you may be partially lost with is that his jacket is bulletproof, so that's obviously explained in number 2, that he's got a sort of bulletproof dinner jacket that he's wearing, whereas he's got the same jacket on here now, and he gets shot a couple of times. And if you haven't seen number 1 or 2, you might kind of think, hang on, didn't he just get shot? What happened there? So that's a little bit of information that isn't really explained at the start of number 3. Other than that, it's got a few little things about the organization he works for that you might not really understand, but they're not really explained in number 1 or 2 either, really. So it's vague enough. You get an understanding that he works for people that need people killed. It's a big assassin organization. But as far as how it really works, I don't think that's ever explained at any point in time at all. So I don't think you really need to understand what's happened beforehand to get what's going on in this film. So I haven't looked at any reviews or anything like that for the film yet. I'm just looking at Metacritic right now for the first time, and the top review here has 100. So I think that is silly, even though I've said maybe this is the best action film ever. You can't give it a 100. You have to give yourself room to say that a film could be better than this, so 100 I think silly. But this one says, there are moments of unexpected humour that blindside you. I would agree with that. I was chuckling a bit. I don't really know if you should be chuckling at people getting killed en masse, but there were some funny moments. There were other people laughing as well. So I don't think the film is a comedy as such, but I was laughing at certain points in the film. The next one here says, it's a hard R live action cartoon, and it is superb, wall-to-wall action entertainment, and I'm already looking forward to John Wick Chapter 4. This time he adopts a cat. I don't know about the adopting the cat part. He does have a dog, but I agree with that. And the last kind of good one here I'll read. If the sequels keep coming, the John Wick story may one day collapse on itself. Yeah, that could definitely happen. For now, the series remains the most reliable purveyor of high-stakes on-screen combat around, a franchise that hasn't yet been tarnished by its ongoing success. Yep, completely agree with those 3 good reviews. So let's have a look at the bottom 3 reviews now. Let's see how bad people think it is. On a level of pure craft, then, John Wick 3 is unquestionably great action filmmaking, certainly the most technically accomplished of the series thus far, with a good dozen scenes that could only have been pulled off by a director, a stunt team, an editor, and a cast working at the absolute highest level. I agree with that 100%. I do notice the next word here, though. It says but. But as masterfully executed as the action is, watching 2+ hours of mayhem without any palpable dramatic stakes or nuance or any emotion at all save bloodlust offers undeniable diminishing returns. I don't agree with that, but I could completely see why people would think that. It is just a massive action film that goes on and on. I think the action is varied enough to not get bored with it, but I think that is completely legitimate criticism for this film. So the second worst one here has a 50, which is a pretty good score for second worst review. In Parabellum, the shootouts, and there are 2 disastrous ones, that finale and a mid-film sequence featuring the new co-star Halle Berry. I love the Halle Berry part. I thought it was fantastic, so I'm going to have to disagree with that. Less about Wick, his motivations, his anger and technique, and more about the grandiosity of the violence. Okay, I completely agree with that. Yes, it is less about Wick and it's more about the violence. So yep, I agree with what they're saying here. And the last one down here, they've also given it a 50. The movie should by rights be a wow, but it feels bloated, self-conscious, and pretentious with long waits between the few dazzling fights. Evidently, it's hard to build on a premise that's basically so vacuous and dumb. So that to me just really sounds like it's the general things you'd say about an action film. So I'm not going to say it's necessarily wrong with what it's saying there, although I don't think there was that big a weight between a lot of the action. But it is an action film. It deserves all the criticism an action film will get. And the worst reviews so far by the so-called proper reviewers on Metacritic are 50. So I think that's a pretty good bad review, 50 out of 100. So if you like action films, check it out. You won't be disappointed. You don't have to have seen John Wick 1 or 2 to understand what's happening in John Wick 3. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.